They're getting desperate. They're getting totally desperate. The criminals in D.C., I'm not talking about the elected ones. I should specify, I'm not talking about the elected Democrats in Congress. I'm talking about the criminals roaming around the streets. The deranged criminal masterminds, the roving gangs of wild youth, the whacked out drug addicts and the homeless people. No, I'm talking about the criminals in D.C. They're getting desperate. The crackdown is working. They no longer are fully weaponized. Now they've started attacking police officers with sub sandwiches. That's the new thing. They don't feel as emboldened as they used to before Donald Trump came into town and said, look, we're federalizing this joint. We're taking control because this place is out of control now. They're not using guns. They're not using weapons. They're using sub sandwiches, which this guy, apparently he worked for the Department of Justice. This guy approached now the interesting thing about this is he's wearing a pink shirt. Which, if you're watching, he's wearing a pink shirt and he's like in the face of a police officer, and then he hurls a foot-long sub sandwich at him. And then he takes off running down the streets of DC with his pink shirt, and these officers are just chasing him down. Officers, and also there's a lot of cursing. I don't know why people curse all the time. It's such an extra work for me because I try to run a family-friendly show. But it's amazing to me. This is what's happening in Washington, D.C. A criminal last night was arrested and this guy, I have to find the story for you because the story is he works for the Department of Justice. That was confirmed by Attorney General Pam Bondi because he threw a sandwich at a police officer, and he was going at it before he just threw the sandwich at the guy. He was yelling at him. He was cursing at him. He saw the police. He was calling them fascists and all kinds of things like that. And then all of a sudden he got right up in their face, like right up in this cop's face. Cop just standing there doing, what he's supposed to. You're not supposed to interact with these folks. You're not supposed to give in. But this guy takes the sandwich and hurls it at the cop. Now, keep in mind, this police officer is wearing a bulletproof vest. So it's not like, oops, it's not like he's going to get harmed. Now, it's a bulletproof, or I guess in this case, it's a bologna-proof vest. It's totally meat-proof. You can hurl a foot long, you can hurl a meat lovers, whatever it is. It's not going to permeate that. It's not going to injure this guy. He's wearing a bulletproof. He's wearing Kevlar. And if Kevlar can stop a bullet, it can stop a $5 footlong from Subway. And then, by the way, and I know they haven't been $5 in years, I understand, but that's just, I just remember those were the days, weren't it? Weren't those the days? $5 for a footlong? I remember taking $5 and I would eat and I was sated for an entire 20 minutes. It was amazing. If I had $10, sometimes I'd get two, but that's a whole other story for a whole other day. But that's what's happening in DC. The criminals are now attacking the cops with sandwiches because they're so desperate. Here's the official story from CNN. Man charged for throwing a sandwich at an officer in DC worked at DOJ and has been fired. So not only does this guy not have his sandwich anymore, but he doesn't have a job. He's in the clink. He gets arrested. He doesn't even eat. He doesn't have his sandwich anymore. He doesn't have a job anymore, all because he's suffering from TDS. A man who worked for the Department of Justice was charged Wednesday after allegedly throwing a sandwich at a federal law enforcement officer in Washington, D.C. Okay, now, I understand legally he has not been found guilty by a jury of his peers, but we've got video of this guy hurling the sandwich. Do we have to go with the allegedly? I guess we do. I guess when you've been sued as many times as CNN, you go with the allegedly. For allegedly throwing a sandwich at a federal law enforcement officer in Washington, D.C. amid President Donald Trump's takeover of the city's police and increase in federal law enforcement presence. Attorney General Pam Bondi announced on social media Thursday that the man has been fired. He was an international affairs specialist in the criminal division of the Office of International Affairs, according to a source. If you touch any law enforcement officer, we will come after you, Bondi wrote. Remember, June, you remember Donald Trump's whole thing? If you spit, we hit. If you spit, we will hit. You spit and we hit. That was like the whole thing. Spitting is assault against one of these officers. They're going to crack you upside the skull. And they're going to be in there. You have their right to do it. I just learned that this defendant worked at the Department of Justice. No longer. Not only is he fired, he has been charged with a felony. This is an example of the deep state we have been up against for 7 months as we work to refocus DOJ, Bondi said of the sandwich incident. The sandwich incident, they're calling it. Oh, CNN. You will not work in this administration while disrespecting our government and law enforcement. According to police, Sean Charles Dunn confronted a group of U.S. Customs and Border Patrol officers, ICE, they're called, on 14th Street in Northwest D.C. on Sunday night, calling them fascists, according to court documents. During the incident, Dunn allegedly approached a CBP officer and shouted expletives, adding, "Why are you here? I don't want you in my city." Dunn then crossed the street, but returned and threw a sub-style sandwich, that's a direct quote from the police, at the officer's chest, police said. Dunn then attempted to run away, but was arrested. Dunn allegedly confessed while being processed, saying, "I did it. I threw a sandwich." We know, dude. I did it. I threw a sandwich. They elicited a confession from Sandwich Guy. They got him on record admitting to it. He's like, "Yes, I admit it was me in my pink shirt and my shorts and my shoes with my little shorty socks. I was yelling at the cop, and then I turned around and I threw the sandwich at him. And then I ran off like a girl, and I got totally busted. But I did it. I did it." Whereas the Dunn has not entered a plea in the case and faces a felony charge of assaulting an officer. CNN has reached out to his attorney. U.S. Attorney for D.C. Jeanine Pirro touted Dunn's arrest on Wednesday, saying in a video shared on X, "We're going to back the police to the hilt." So there, stick your Subway sandwich somewhere else. Oh, do I have that one? I gotta get that clip. I want to get the clip of Jeanine Pirro saying, "Stick your sandwich somewhere else." Here it is. I got it. This is why I love X. This is the best part of Elon Musk's. This is his greatest contribution to the world, is instant show prep for podcasters. All right, here's Jeanine Pirro saying, "Stick your sandwich somewhere else."
So President Trump has vowed to make D.C. safe and beautiful again.
Hear, hear.
And as part of his effort to fight crime, he's bringing in our federal law enforcement partners like FBI, ATF, DEA, or Park Police, everybody to help the Metropolitan PD fight crime. And the president's message to the criminals was, if you spit, we hit. Well, we didn't quite do that the other night when an individual went up to one of the federal law enforcement officers and started jumping up and down, screaming at him, berating him, yelling at him. And then he took a Subway sandwich about this big and took it and threw it at the officer.
Yeah.
He thought it was funny.
He did.
Well, he doesn't think it's funny today because we charged him with a felony, assault on a police officer. And we're going to back the police to the hilt. So there, stick your Subway sandwich somewhere else. So
I mean, I love that. This is law enforcement. This is it. We got Judge Jeanine in her floral pantsuit, standing in the office of the U.S. Attorney in the District of Columbia, telling this guy, "Stick your Subway and she's like, "We got it like a foot long." He hurled it at the cop, and you're gonna stick your sandwich somewhere else, kid. This is one of my favorite. This is why I love this administration so much. This is why I love being an American. And this is why I love what President Donald Trump is doing for America, putting together a dream team. I mean, this is a dream team of individuals who are going to be protecting the police from all enemies. Those people, if you shoot at the police, if you spit at the police, if you hurl a foot-long submarine sandwich at the police, Judge Jeanine is going to come get you, and she's going to back the police to the hilt. And you will be charged, and it's not going to be pretty. The incident, of course, comes after President Donald Trump ordered additional federal law enforcement officers to the city late last week, arguing that crime in Washington, D.C. is rampant. And crime in Washington, it's not even an argument. It's a statement. Donald Trump didn't argue that crime in D.C. is running rampant. Donald Trump said crime in D.C. is running rampant. And we know that it is because everybody in D.C. says it is. And the media is now coming to the defense of the criminals once again by saying, the crimes aren't that bad. Sure, they're crimes, but they're not like big crimes. They're like little crimes. Oh, yeah? No crime is a little crime in Donald Trump's eye. And they're not little crimes. They're big crimes like murder and rape and assault and carjacking and all these other crimes that terrorize an entire city. And that is something that is not going to be tolerated. And Caroline Leavitt, White House press secretary, said that's not going to be tolerated.
Some updated statistics for you. Overnight, there were 45 criminal arrests made for assault, second and first degree. There were arrests made for the distribution of illegal drugs and narcotics that have now been removed off of the streets. There were 3 illegal firearms that were seized. And in addition to that, there were 29 illegal aliens who were removed off of Washington, D.C. streets last night, many of whom had final orders of removal. So these results are happening night after night because of the efforts of this federal task force that are working alongside the Metropolitan Police Department, who agree with this effort. In fact, the Metropolitan Police Department union stated that President Trump is right to do this, that crime has been totally out of control in the city, and the residents of Washington, maybe not the journalists because they don't want to admit President Trump is right, who live here, but the residents agree. According to a Washington Post poll, 65% of D.C. residents say that crime is a very serious problem in the District of Columbia. And while Democrats want to rant and rave and coddle criminals, President Trump wants to put them behind bars. And that's what this task force is focused on doing for the next 28 days.
And that is something that is important, that is necessary, and that you can see right there with just 45 arrests in one day. I don't know how many arrests they averaged before President Donald Trump's surge on the District of Columbia, but I have to imagine it wasn't that many in the last month. And if you have 45 arrests today, that's a lot of people. That's a lot of criminals and guns that you're going to take off of the street. And oh, yes, don't forget, no longer is D.C. a sanctuary city. And if you are an illegal immigrant, if you're an illegal alien, if you're here in this country illegally, if you've broken our laws, crossed our borders, and set up shop here in the United States without the necessary legal documentation, then guess what? D.C. is no longer a safe place for you to hide because President Donald Trump and the National Guard and the federalized police department are now in charge, and you will not have sanctuary status anymore.
President Trump has decided to federalize the National Guard here in Washington, D.C., and to take over the Metropolitan Police Department because D.C. has unfortunately been ravaged with violent crime for far too long. 65% of D.C. residents say crime is a very serious problem, and the president signed an executive order back in May saying that we are going to make D.C. safe and beautiful again. And we've already seen enormous success in just the less than a week that this task force agency has been on the streets of the District of Columbia removing criminals. Last night, there were 45 criminal arrests. Those arrests include charges for assault.
Yeah, and there you can see it's the same litany over and over again that she's putting out there on all the networks because everybody needs to know that this surge is working, that this surge is necessary, and that this surge is going to keep people safe. And Caroline Leavitt is going to go on Newsmax and Fox News and anywhere else and say this is exactly what's happening. There was, by the way, one more back and forth. There was a back and forth with Charla McBride on Newsmax and Caroline Leavitt. They were talking about Al Sharpton because Al Sharpton, much like he's done his entire career, Al Sharpton decided to make Donald Trump's takeover of D.C. all about race, not about crime, not about protecting people, but about attacking black cities with black mayors.
You named other cities, New York, Chicago, Los Angeles, Oakland, all cities with black mayors. Is that your calculus here, Mr. President? Why you don't see people are hurting and I named some cities that are white and say, let's go in these cities. I'll meet you there, Mr. President. Why are you only having a segregated intervention?
Somalia, and the Rev makes a great point, and we also shouldn't lose sight of the fact that it's
he makes a great point. The guy from MSNBC, oh yeah, the Reverend makes a great point. No, that's a dumb point. That's not even a point. Donald Trump is not there. First of all, there's no such thing as white cities and black cities. There's white mayors and black mayors, but they're not white cities and black cities. New York is not a black city. Washington, D.C. is not a black city. I mean, what are they talking about? I don't understand what he's saying there. He's basically saying Donald Trump is not necessarily going where the crime is. He's going where the black people are. He's going where the black mayors are, and he's trying to show people that black people in positions of power can't handle those positions of power. That's not what he's saying at all. What he's saying is these particular cities have been overrun by crime, criminal behavior, drugs, gangs, homelessness, all kinds of graffiti, degradation. The people in charge can't handle it or don't want to, probably both. And so he's going to come in and he's going to fix it, at least the city that he lives in Washington, D.C. And Al Sharpton's like, oh, you're just going after black people. It's not true. You know what? In fact, most crimes in cities, in inner cities like Washington, D.C. and New York and Chicago are committed against black people. Black victims outnumber white victims and Hispanic victims and Asian victims in these cities, astronomically. So by cleaning up crime, by breaking up these gangs, by arresting criminals, by getting drugs off the street and homeless people off the street, President Donald Trump is actually helping an exponential number of black Americans. But Al Sharpton doesn't want you to know that because it goes against his whole narrative, and he only gets paid if black people and white people continue to hate each other. So he's not trying to bridge the gaps. He's trying to widen the divide, because when he divides us, he gets dividends. That's his entire career. That's his entire MO. Caroline Levitt was asked about this, and she said, oh, Al Sharpton, he's just the worst.
I think those comments are utterly disgraceful, and the president wants to make all of our cities safe. And the reason for this federal takeover of Washington, D.C. is because this is where the crime is happening. There is violent crime that is taking the lives of far too many black Americans, I will add, and Americans of all races, religions, creeds. The president wants to protect them and to make our streets safer and more beautiful. On July 5th, you had a beautiful young girl, 3 years old, who was shot and killed in her car coming back from a 4th of July celebration with her family. That life is worth what the president is doing. He wants to protect law-abiding Americans and families regardless of race. And I think it's despicable that you hear comments like that trying to inject race in this conversation. This is about law and order and safety. That's what President Trump cares about. And while the Democrats want to coddle criminals and illegal aliens, the president is going to put them behind bars, no matter what color they are, no matter where they come from. If you break the law in D.C. or anywhere in this country, you need to be held accountable, period.
And that's despite no matter what color you happen to be. Now, President Donald Trump, he's going to speak here in just un minuto. We've got a live press conference at the White House. It's going to be in the Oval Office. I don't know if he's going to speak about what's going to happen in Russia tomorrow, because that is, of course, a big topic of discussion. What's going to happen in Russia tomorrow? In Alaska with Russia. The Russian President Vladimir Putin will be meeting with President Donald Trump, and everyone's wanting to know what's going to happen. What are they going to talk about? What's the deal? What's happening with Ukraine? And why isn't Europe going to be there? So we'll bring you those comments when they happen live here in just a minute. But first, there's another story about Melania Trump, the first lady, which is, I got to be honest with you, it's wild. This whole thing is like a soap opera, and you really couldn't script this better. Melania Trump, the first lady of the United States of America, is threatening Hunter Biden, the last son of the United States of America. You know, crackhead Hunter Biden, who we've all seen the photos. We know the thing about the laptop. You've seen the photos of him with the crack pipe and the crack sticking out of his face and the drugs. And then there was the photo of him naked with the gun. It's one of my faves. My favorite, of course, was the M&Ms lined up on his manhood, because I don't know why he was doing that. But anyway, what happens is Hunter Biden, now supposedly clean and sober and totally bitter about his father being pushed out by his own party, has been attacking everybody. And of course, President Donald Trump. You may remember we played you clips of that interview he did a while back. He did this like 3-hour long interview where it was just a profanity laced tirade. I mean, I don't know how else to put it, but a tirade. And there was more. I was late that day because I was trying to bleep out all the F-bombs. It was just F this, F that, F this, F that. It was just so much Hunter freaking flipping out about all kinds. He was flipping out, remember, about George Clooney. He was talking smack about George Clooney and what a horrible person George Clooney was, and how George Clooney was just stabbed his father in the back, which, let's be honest, he ain't wrong. He's not wrong about that. That actually happened. But the fact of the matter is, it just seemed like it was Hunter getting, doing his therapy live on a podcast. Well, during that, one of the things he said was that Melania Trump was introduced to her husband, Donald Trump, now president of the United States, by Jeffrey Epstein. And that Jeffrey Epstein is the reason they're together and the reason they're in love. And there may be other salacious details about their past together. Well, Melania Trump was not having that. She wasn't happy about that. And so she threatened, her lawyers sent a letter to the podcast company or the news channel or whatever, and to Hunter specifically, and said, you need to print a retraction or we're going to sue you for $1 billion.
Presidential litigation has arrived. It's lawsuit time. In my hand is a legal demand letter addressed to Mr. Hunter Biden from the First Lady of the United States, demanding a retraction of Channel 5's video called Hunter Biden Returns, in which Mr. Biden here makes some speculative comments about the relationship between Jeffrey Epstein, Melania Trump, and Donald Trump.
Okay, well, they knew each other well. They spent an enormous time together. According to his biographer, is that Jeffrey Epstein introduced Melania. That's how Melania and the First Lady and the president met.
Really?
Yeah.
Epstein made the intro.
Yeah, according to Michael Wolff.
Yeah.
And so I only can go by what people are saying, and I don't know.
He didn't make these claims out of nowhere. They come from another journalist named Michael Wolff, who is a biographer that actually spoke to Jeffrey Epstein. But now here we are. And I've got $1 billion document in my hands because Mrs. Trump is seeking $1 billion in damages if we don't take the video down and if Hunter here doesn't issue a formal apology to Mrs. Trump. So now we're here maybe to give you the platform to apologize to the First Lady for your statements that you made about her possible connection to Jeffrey Epstein.
That's not going to happen.
There you go. That was Hunter Biden. Hunter Biden threatened with a $1 billion lawsuit for his statements on this Channel 5, which I don't even know what this Channel 5 is. I know that this guy did this. He wears a suit and a ball cap and some sneakers. And I know that he's interviewed Hunter Biden before. Well, in that interview, Melania Trump didn't like what she heard. She's now threatening a $1 billion lawsuit. And Hunter Biden's response is,
That's not going to happen.
yeah, there's no, by the way, how much does he look like his dad? He's really starting. If you look at Hunter Biden now that Hunter Biden's that age, he's almost what? He's 55-ish, I think. Hey, Siri, how old is Hunter Biden?
Hunter Biden is 55 years old.
Look at that. Oh, nailed it. Hashtag nailed it. Now that he's 55 and sitting with this kind of beard, he's got that smarmy look. He's got the fake teeth, all that kind of thing. He looks a lot like his dad did when his dad was younger. And that's unfortunate for him. We'll have more on this story, but real quick, let's go to the President of the United States in the Oval Office, who is making some kind of an announcement. Again, we're not really sure what the announcement is, but we're going to watch it because that's what we do here.
Thank you very much for being with us. It's a good time for this country. We have the hottest country anywhere in the world. I think you're hearing it from a lot of people, not just from me. We're doing very well in so many ways. And the gentleman on my right, we recruited him. We tried to get the best person. We got a man that you'll hear in a second has done an amazing job with respect to Social Security. He's running it, and he's running it like nobody ever even dreamt possible. And it's the 90th anniversary right now of Social Security. So today we celebrate that 90th anniversary of one of the most significant pieces of legislation ever signed into law, the Social Security Act of 1935, and we're going to make it stronger, bigger, and better. We're doing a job.
You could repeal
In the
it.
campaign, I made a secret pledge to our seniors that I would always protect Social Security, and under this administration, we're keeping that promise and strengthening Social Security for generations to come. You keep hearing stories that in 6 years, 7 years, Social Security will be gone, and it will be if the Democrats ever get involved because they don't know what they're doing.
That's true.
But it's going to be around a long time with us. Very much, you'll be surprised to hear some of the numbers. I'm delighted to be joined by the Commissioner of the Social Security Administration, Frank Bisignano, who in the world of business, in fact, I wrote some of the little things down, that he's had an amazing, he was Chief Operating Officer of J.P. Morgan Chase. He worked for Jamie Dimon, and Jamie Dimon said that he was amazing. So think of that chief operating officer, J.P. Morgan Chase, had a storied career. Then he went to First Data. For those in the business, you'd know it's the largest payment company anywhere in the world. And worked for Henry Kravis, and it was in big trouble. He took it over as CEO. He made it incredible. They merged with Fiserv, and he became CEO of that, and that became extremely successful. I was in Milwaukee. I guess they have the Milwaukee Arena, and where we had some good success and some good speeches. But he's a really legendary guy, and he wanted to do this. I mean, he just wanted to straighten out Social Security because he loves our country. And what he's done in a few months is amazing. Almost 60 million American seniors rely on Social Security for peace of mind and a life of dignity in retirement. These Americans paid into the system, and they deserve leaders in Washington who are going to protect the benefits they've had and protect Social Security. Under Biden, Social Security went down like nobody's ever seen. It deteriorated. There's never been anything like it. The 4 years of Biden were very, very destructive. It couldn't have gone on much longer. Social Security was going to be destroyed. It was being destroyed. The average call wait time reached an all-time high of more than 42 minutes. Field office wait times were at 32 minutes, which is unheard of, and the disability claims backlog was the longest ever in recorded history. In other words, it was run just like the country was run. It was run really badly. But I'm pleased to report that under our leadership, and Frank in particular, the changes he's made and what he's done is sort of a miracle. Sort of like what happened with the country as a whole. Field office wait times are now down 30% since last year, and it looks like it's going to a total record number. And the record was set in a long time ago when the world was a lot different place. So we're gonna beat that record. Call wait times are down 73% while serving twice as many customers per day. The disability claims backlog is down 26%, and seniors now have 24/7 online access to their accounts, which they never had before, whereas under Biden, the website was down 29 hours a week for maintenance purposes. It was essentially not open very much. They were always maintaining it, but they didn't know what the hell they were doing. They had a person running that had no idea what they were doing. Among my very first acts was to order all government employees to return to the office or be removed from the job, which means our Social Security offices are now open for full business hours 5 days a week. So unlike being shut down all the time, we're open at record levels also. We're making it really great for the people that want and demand Social Security, and they paid into the system. They deserve it. Last month, I signed one big, beautiful bill and allowed no tax on Social Security for our great seniors, okay? So how's that? Not bad, right? No tax on Social Security for our seniors. And to protect our benefits, we've already kicked nearly 275,000 illegal aliens off of the Social Security system. These are people...
We should kick everybody off of the Social Security system.
And yet we were sending them checks all the time.
Let's go for the legal Americans next.
275,000, and that number's now even larger than that, Frank. It's an unbelievable job. And what that's doing is making the system strong. It's making it strong. Biden never kicked anybody off. Everybody joined. And we're carrying out historic deportations to remove many more illegals committing Social Security fraud. It's the Social Security fraud that was taking place at levels that nobody's ever seen. We cleared 12.4 million names listed in the Social Security database over 120 years of age. Think of that. So we had 12.4 million names where they were over 120 years old. Is that right?
That's a lot of old people.
Statement. I have a feeling, Dan, that's not really didn't happen, did it? So you have 12.4 million names listed in the Social Security database that were over 120 years of age, meaning you were breaking records, because I've never heard of anybody at 125. There were nearly 135,000 people listed who were over 160 years old. and in some cases getting payments. So somebody's getting those payments, and we're after that. We're also fighting the menace of inflation to make life more affordable for American seniors, and we've ended Biden's inflation nightmare. So we had the worst inflation in the history of our country, and now our inflation is down to a perfect number, a beautiful number, hardly any at all. And yet our country is taking in tens of billions of dollars and trillions of dollars, actually trillions of dollars.
Yeah, trillions of dollars.
Tariffs. You know all about it.
And investment revenue and everything else.
They say, why are we taking in so much money? Last week they found $29 billion and they couldn't figure out where it came from. I said, check the tariff shelf. And they said, how did you know that's where it came from? We're taking in billions and even trillions of dollars in tariffs, paid by other countries who, frankly, were taking advantage of us for many, many years. And they were doing that to us, but our people didn't know it. We didn't have smart business people. We've ended Biden's inflation nightmare and came in below expectations. And yet, again, this past month, we set records. Gasoline prices are way down, and really dramatically.
They were under $3 here the other day.
Energy prices have been
under
going
$3,
down, other than in certain states where you have Democrat-run states where they put windmills all over the place. Anytime you see a windmill, you'll say, well, they have bad energy costs. And it's happening in New Jersey. I saw that there's a revolution going on in New Jersey. They closed up a nuclear power plant, and they're raising electricity rates by 21, 22, and 28%, something like that. And you're going to have a new governor in New Jersey. I'll tell you what, you have a good man running in the Republican Party. He'll get him down. But what they've done is they've killed so many good sources of energy for very expensive windmills and lots of other things that don't work. 401ks and retirement accounts are soaring, and the stock market is setting record highs. Almost every day we're going record highs, and yet we're taking in hundreds of billions of dollars in tariffs. So it's turned out that Trump was right and they were wrong. A few smart people knew what was going to happen. A few of us were right. So we're going to keep the fighting going. We're going to make America's seniors every single day. We're going to fight for them. We're going to make them richer, better, stronger in so many different ways. But Social Security is like pretty much the one that we think about, and we love it, and we love what's happening with it. And it's going to be good for 90 years and beyond. Again, you were given only a short period of time. Social Security was supposed to be like down. Had they won the election, Social Security would have defaulted during Biden or Kamala's election, whoever they so chose. Two beauties. And now what I'd like to do is ask Frank to say a few words. Again, this is a man with a really storied past. He's one of the most successful anywhere in the world. What he did at J.P. Morgan Chase and what he did for Henry Kravis and all of the others are like legendary stories. And he just wanted to do this. He's making about a tiny fraction, I would say, a tiny fraction of what you used to make. But he didn't care. He wanted to do it. He made a lot of money. And he said, I want to run that system. I want to put it back on track. And he's got unbelievable talent over there. It's like a different place. So, Frank, would you say a few words, please? Sure. Thank you.
By the way, they're both wearing pink ties.
Tiny fraction, sir.
Is that what it is?
Yeah.
That's a tiny fraction.
It's an honor. It's an honor. It is an honor. And I'd like to start off by thanking the president for his tireless effort in running the country and what he's done across the country, meeting every commitment. And, you know, I see it directly in the big, beautiful bill, the opportunity that it's brought to seniors. But his effort on every commitment, delivering against it, and delivering on world peace tirelessly. I'd like to also thank him for my opportunity. You know, he's teasing me, I'm teasing him about the economics of the job. But the reality is to serve 300 million Americans, which is what Social Security serves, is a tremendous honor. And him putting that faith in me and building what I believe, and I think I have a right to say it, is the best leadership team ever assembled in the White House and in the cabinet. So that's my great honor. So I come here and get the opportunity to serve the American public in a manner that I never imagined in my life. And what we found was the opportunity to fix a foundation. The reality is, people talk about 72 beneficiaries. I talk about over 300 million Americans with a Social Security number that we must protect through the system. And when you look at what we talk about in eliminating Social Security numbers that were live in the system, they could carry fraud through the whole system. So the first thing was root out fraud, waste, and abuse. But while doing it, the best way to be more efficient is provide more accurate payments and better service. And you heard the numbers. I think the most staggering number is that we had a website that was down 29 hours. This will be a digital-first agency. And we are building my SSA accounts. That's the digital account. And we have a bold goal of 200 million Americans to have a digital SSA account by the end of next year. It will happen. Just like we had a bold goal of single-digit wait time on the calls when they were at 40 minutes. And we did that. This is my 100th day. We did that within 90 days, right? Get the web up and running, bring technology to our field offices, use digital presence to answer and serve the American public. That's the job. When we do all that, then we'll really know the answer to if we have a hole, right? I was presented in my second week on the job with $18 billion in errors by the Inspector General. It was public. In less than a month, we solved $9 billion of it. So that's the type of swift action we can take, right? You see the things like the big, beautiful bill for the seniors. You see better digital services. You see field office wait times down. If you make an appointment to have a field office visit, it now happens in 6 minutes. Unprecedented. We are serving more people and delivering more than was ever delivered before in a manner with the highest possible quality, and we've just begun. You should expect this to be a great digital-first agency. My commitment to make this happen is as deep as the President's commitment to make the world a great place. And you see the fabulous job happening here across America and what he's doing in the world. You should expect Social Security, just like the President. I thank him for making America great again. It's happening. Social Security will be great again. You have my commitment. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, Sir. I'm going to sign the new proclamation, please.
Sir, this is a proclamation.
All right, here comes the proclamation.
The 90th anniversary of the Social Security Act, the signing of the Social Security Act, and also the incredible accomplishments of your administration fixing and promoting and safeguarding Social Security. And it also obviously mentions the fact that as part of the One Big Beautiful Bill, a vast majority of our senior citizens are no longer paying taxes on their Social Security benefits, as you promised in your campaign and as you delivered for the American people.
That's a big factor, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
That's great. I think they're very happy about it, too. They're very happy about a lot of things. Good job, Frank.
Thank you, sir.
And Frank has brought with him some of the most talented people in business, and they were making a lot of money, but they made a lot of money. They had money they didn't have to make anymore, and they just want to do this. They want to have our country become strong and good, and that's what's happening. And we're doing that in a lot of locations, a lot of areas. You deal with some of the people that are commissioners, that are secretaries. They were making a lot of money, but they made a lot of secretaries of Treasury and Commerce, people that were really, really successful people. And they gave all that up to make a very small amount of money. They don't even consider it a fraction. You say 1%, less than 1%. That's pretty good. That's a big pay cut. But Frank is one of the most outstanding of all. His career has been incredible. Wow. You just have to look at what happened at J.P. Morgan Chase and look at what happened with First Data. First Data was the biggest company of its kind in the world, but it was not going to make it. He went in, and it became a tremendous success. It merged into another company, and he became the head of that company.
I'm assuming here President Trump will take
Social Security.
take questions from the media
compared in terms of numbers, right?
About all kinds of stuff.
These are big numbers. Government numbers are big numbers.
Probably Russia and stuff like that.
So I want to thank everybody for being here, but I'm really proud of you, Frank. And here's your proclamation, and let's take a look at what that looks like. Signed by the human hand. For a change.
Always good. A good one.
That's good, right?
That's a good joke. I like that one.
Do you have any questions for Frank?
There we go. That's a question.
The question is for Frank.
For Frank? Mr. President?
Yes, on Social Security. Please.
First and foremost, this was a major campaign promise that you had. 2023 it was one of the first Agenda 47s that you put out. It was titled, "We Must Protect Medicare and Social Security." Why was this important for both of you to get done, and given the fact that it'll impact millions of lives?
Well, it was very important to me because I knew how Social Security, I've been hearing about it for years, long before I came to office, that it was really going to die very shortly. And I had to put somebody outstanding in, and I was talking to him on a business sense once, and I said, this guy's amazing. And he said, I'd love to help you with Social Security because it's sort of what he does. You know, he takes troubled entities and turns them around. And he did some of the biggest messes in the world, and Social Security in a certain way, I guess, you reported it all the time. In 4 or 5 years, it's going to go bust, but not anymore, it's not. And he's got it turned around so well. The proclamation helps. All of the things we've done help. And he's finding such tremendous fraud where we have illegal aliens. We have people that don't even exist on Social Security. They don't exist. And
Ghosts.
what it does, it makes it totally secure and powerful for the people that are on it and need it. And we're very proud of the job he's done, one of the best.
Kara Castro from Lindell TV. How are you today, sir? Democrats like Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren continue to peddle the lie and the claim that you're trying to cut Social Security, despite your repeated promises to protect it. Why do you think they keep pushing this misinformation and literally terrorizing the elderly in America that sadly keep watching the very misleading mainstream media?
I love your question. I should have called you almost first, but I love his questions also. Always. But it's such a good question. It's so vicious what they do. Elizabeth Warren said she was an Indian. We call her Pocahontas. She's a liar. She lied her whole career. Based on the fact that she was an Indian, she was able to get into certain colleges, get certain jobs, get into certain...
And it was a lie, I tell you.
She's a liar and a mean person. She's a nut job. I watched her the other night. She's all hopped up endorsing a communist in New York City. And she was all excited and jumping up and down. She's got to take a drug test. She really does. She's got to take a drug test. There's no way somebody can act that way.
Smoke 'em peace pipe.
What she's done to our financial institutions, she destroys people. You know that you had a lot of great banks in the Midwest and banks that loaned to farmers and others, and they went out of business. She put them out of business. Stone cold mean. Banks that were open 150 years, family banks that supplied the farmers and manufacturers and others, and she put them out of business. She's a mean, horrible human being. Bernie Sanders is Bernie Sanders. I don't mind him so much. He's just a liberal guy, very liberal guy. He's a wacky guy.
Wacky guy.
He's still sharp. I got to tell you, he's 86 or 87 or something. He's still sharp. You compare that to Joe Biden, it's, sort of what happened. So I don't mind Bernie Sanders. With him, you know what you're getting. You're getting a guy, he's a nasty guy, but he's somebody that...
he's a wacky, nasty guy.
I don't know if I call it a fastball, but he's able to throw the ball pretty well. He's okay. I watched him the other day. He was totally on the opposite side of things. I will say this, the biggest issue right now, and an issue that's really taken hold, is crime, stopping crime in the cities, and the Democrats are fighting the stopping of crime. So I think that's like men playing in women's sports is okay, or transgender for everybody okay, but this is a bigger issue. This is the biggest of all issues. Crime is rampant in D.C., it's rampant in our generally blue-run cities, and they've got to do something about it, or they're never going to win another election. And instead of calling me a dictator, they like to say Trump's a dictator. Trump's a dictator. Well, I had calls from many, many friends, including Democrats. I have a lot of Democrat friends, but they're normal people. and they were thanking me so much for what I'm doing in D.C. They feel so safe already. And you know, at the border, we had 0 people come in, and this is done by a liberal group. They're the people that do it. I have nothing to do with it. 0 people in 3 months. We had 0, 0, and 0 for 3 months. And last year we had millions of people pouring in from all countries, from jails, from drug addicts, gang members, drug dealers by the thousands and thousands. 11,888 murderers, half of whom committed more than one murder. They flowed into our country, and for the last 3 months we had none. And I didn't remember when Joe Biden used to always go, I need legislation. I had no legislation. I just said, we're closing the borders, and the whole world understood it because they respect your country again. They really respect this country again. They didn't respect it. When he said it, it didn't mean anything. But now they know it meant a lot. And Mexico does what we tell them to do, and Canada does what we tell them to do, because we had the 2 borders. We have the northern border, southern border, and they were both horrible. But now it's some people say it's a miracle. Well, what Frank has done with Social Security also is something very special. But what we're doing with crime, which will be your next question, I guess, that's because everyone's they're afraid. Half of the people here, maybe all of the people here, most of you live in D.C., you are petrified to go out. And you're liberal, and if you're liberal, you're going to have to change. You're Democrats, you're going to have to change your ways. So we will have crime under control very shortly in D.C.
He just asked himself a question about crime, by the way.
Sadly, I guess the mayor did, but whoever it was, they asked the numbers to be fudged so that it would show less crime than the fact. The fact is, it's worse than it's ever been, and we will have it just like we did at the border, where with borders are totally in great shape right now, the best ever, record-setting shape.
Yeah.
We'll have the crime situation solved in D.C. very soon. And we're also going to beautify the city. We have a beautiful city, but you can't have graffiti, and you can't have roads with potholes, and you can't have the medians, the dividers in the roads falling down on the street. We're going to be beautifying the city, making it really beautiful. We're going to be getting the criminals the hell out of here. We don't want the criminals in Washington, D.C.
Get them out of here.
Mr. President, one on your Putin meeting and then one on D.C. crime. Are you prepared to offer Vladimir Putin access to rare minerals to incentivize him to end the war?
We're going to see what happens with our meeting. We have a big meeting. It's going to be, I think, very important for Russia, and it's going to be very important for us, and important for us only that we're going to save a lot of lives. Look, we have, we're not paying any money, as you know, to Ukraine. We're supplying equipment. We're being paid 100% plus for that equipment.
Because we're going into the UN, NATO, yeah.
And I got NATO up from 2% to 5% of GDP. They now have billions of dollars. NATO is a very rich group of countries, and we make the best military equipment anywhere in the world by far. And they're buying our equipment, and they're paying 100% for the equipment, 100%. In fact, they owe us about $2 billion now. They're going to send a check. Another one was sent recently for $1 billion. So we're not spending any money anymore. Biden gave them $350 billion, got nothing for it. Right. And if you look, and by the way, we also signed a rare earth deal where we get, years of rare earth to get our money back, the money we spent. But what I'm really doing this for is to save thousands of soldiers a week. You have Russian soldiers, you have Ukrainian soldiers, and then you'll have missiles dropped into various cities and towns in Ukraine. And they're losing last week they lost 7,251 people, mostly soldiers, Russian and Ukrainian soldiers. I'm doing it for that reason. We have a meeting with President Putin tomorrow. I think it's going to be a good meeting, but the more important meeting will be the second meeting that we're having. We're going to have a meeting with President Putin, President Zelensky, myself, and maybe we'll bring some of the European leaders along, maybe not. I don't know that it's going to be very important. We're going to see what happens. And I think President Putin will make peace. I think President Zelensky will make peace. We'll see if they can get along. And if they can, it'll be great. I've solved 6 wars in the last 6 months, a little more than 6 months now. And I'm very proud of it. I thought the easiest one would be this one. It's actually the most difficult. We had one war raging, as you know, for 37 years. One in the Congo with Rwanda was raging for 31 years. We solved 6 of them made peace, not just solved them, we made peace. If you look at Pakistan and India, planes were being knocked out of the air. 6 or 7 planes came down. They were ready to go. Maybe nuclear, we solved that. I thought this would be maybe an easier one. It never made sense, this war. It would have never happened when I was president. If I were president, this war would have never happened. But millions of people have been killed. And I'm there for one reason, to see if I can solve. This was Biden's war. This isn't my war. I want to see if I can stop the killing. Yeah.
But rare earths, do you plan to offer him access to that at all?
We have great rare earth. We made that as payment for all of the money that we've spent so foolishly in Ukraine. We spent $350 billion. Now Europe spent $1 billion. That's a lot of money. They spent $100 billion. That's a lot of money. But we shouldn't be spending a lot more money than them, and they understand that. And I think that's maybe why we're not spending money anymore. We're not spending any money. They're paying us for everything. So people are shocked when they hear it. They don't even understand. They don't even write about it. But we're not spending money. But we are spending a lot of time trying to get the war solved. If we can get the war solved, we'll be very happy. As far as rare earth, that's very unimportant relative to, I'm trying to save lives.
On DC crime, on DC crime,
do you have a message for the Democrat lawmakers like Nancy Pelosi or media who are saying, after living here for many years, that there is no crime and you're trying to start a new news cycle?
It's another reason why the Democrats lost the election in a landslide. They lie. It's just lie. Look, the crime is very bad. I think they'd be much better off saying, we want to help President Trump with the crime because it's an epidemic. It's a tragic situation. It's the worst it's ever been. And we want to help President Trump with the crime, as opposed to, he's a dictator. He's a dictator. People are so happy to see our military going into D.C. and getting these thugs out. As you know, we arrested a lot of people yesterday. We arrested a lot of people today. We're getting people that have arrest records that you wouldn't believe. 28 arrests, 15 arrests, brutal people. And we're going to have to do something about this cashless bail, because people shoot somebody, they kill somebody, and they're out on the street in less than an hour. Now, that's when it's all started, in New York, in Chicago, Los Angeles. You take a look. If we didn't go to Los Angeles to help this incompetent governor and a mayor that doesn't know what the hell she's doing.
That's true.
If we didn't go to Los Angeles, you wouldn't have a big part of it burned down. The other part of it would have burned down too. You would have not had, I don't think you would have been able to have the Olympics. We have the Olympics. I have a lot at stake with that, because I'm the one that got the Olympics. I got it in my first term. And I was saddened because I got it for what would be my third term. Okay, which turned out to be second term. And the Olympics, it's a great honor, but I felt badly because I said I won't be president when the Olympics came. Well, through circumstance, I am president. I want to make sure the Olympics is great, the World Cup is great, and the 250, maybe the most important of all, is the 250-year celebration is great. So what's happening is we will work very hard. You would not have had, I don't believe that if I didn't send in the troops, I don't think you would have had Los Angeles in condition to have the Olympics. I think you would have had to tell them, I'm sorry, you're going to have to go someplace else. And if you look at the police commissioner or the sheriff, he said, we really needed them. Thank God they were here. We really needed them. That was the first 2 or 3 days. After we solved their problems, then he said, well, I think we could have maybe done it. No, he was told what to say. He said, you go back to your files and see what he said. He said, thank goodness they came. If I didn't go and put our military there, or National Guard in that case, and we'll go military if we have to, but the National Guard went there. They were very effective. If we didn't do that, I don't think you would have had the Olympics in Los Angeles. The place would have been just like the 25,000 houses that burned down, where, by the way, the governor ought to focus on getting their permits. You know, the federal permits are given. Those are the hard ones, and they were given a long time ago. People can't rebuild the house because they can't get permits from the state and the city, and they ought to focus on that because it's very upsetting. I went there right after the fires. I walked the streets, and I met a lot of great people that want to rebuild their homes. We took care of it from the federal standpoint, but they're not taking care of it from the city, the mayor and the governor. They're not getting their permits. They can't build their houses.
Mr. President,
go ahead, please.
Mr. President, thank you. Do you think this summit and the incentives for peace you are putting on the table could end up rewarding Putin for his invasion of Ukraine? And what kind of signal do you think that could potentially send to other aggressors?
No, I don't think it's a reward. I think that what we have is a situation that should never have started. It didn't start under me, and for 4 years it wasn't even discussed. And I could see it was going to happen after I left. I could see what was happening. Everything that we did was wrong. Everything that was done was wrong. Everybody's to blame. Putin's to blame. They're all to blame.
All of them.
This is a war that would have never happened.
Mr. President, we have a question on LA. Mr. President, earlier today, the Washington, D.C. police chief issued an executive order allowing metropolitan police officers conducting traffic stops to notify federal immigration and customs enforcement about undocumented immigrants that they encounter. Yet the city has a long-standing pro-immigration policy, including allowing non-citizens to vote in local elections.
Which is ridiculous.
Totally ridiculous.
And limiting cooperation with federal immigration agencies.
Right.
Did your administration pressure the D.C. police chief to review and repeal these policies? And will you require other cities to roll back similar policies to avoid possible federal takeover of local law enforcement?
So what you're saying is that it was a very positive thing. When they stop people, they find they're illegal, they report them, they give them to us, etc. That's a very positive
That's
thing.
pretty good. Sounds good to me.
I have heard that. It just happened. That's a great step. That's a great step if they're doing that. I think that's going to happen all over the country. We want to stop crime. I think if the Democrats aren't strong on this issue, they won't be able to do it. I think this is a bigger issue than all of the other ridiculous things that they like open borders. Well, open borders is bad. Open borders has caused a lot of this problem.
Yeah.
Allowing millions and millions. I think 24 million people were allowed to come into our country. Many of these people from prisons, from jails, from mental institutions. Mm-hmm. This was the Biden policy. And I don't believe it was him. He was never there before. It was the people that encircled this very beautiful desk, the Resolute desk. Radical left lunatics who were
RLLs.
smart, but radical left. And I'm very happy to hear what you just said, because I've heard that.
And Mr. President, on LA, if I may, the mother of a 15-year-old California boy was briefly detained at gunpoint in a case of mistaken identity. The LAUSD superintendent says that surveillance video shows armed agents wearing police and border patrol insignia. Given the National Guard, the Border Control, ICE agents, they're not trained in local policing. What specific steps are you taking to ensure that young people are not put in harm's way with these types of operations?
What they are trained in is common sense, and they're very tough people.
They're trained in common sense.
Great common sense. And
I love it.
And they are highly trained. I heard the mayor of LA was saying, they're not trained this way. I heard this character from, where was he from?
Common sense
training. They talk about him as a candidate. He's got no chance. The governor of Maryland, I watched him this morning saying that the governor of Maryland, they say maybe he'll be a president. He's not presidential timber at all. But I heard him today talking about how the National Guard or the military is not trained in police, but they're trained in common sense, and they're trained in not allowing people to burn down buildings and bomb buildings and shoot people.
They're
all of the things.
They're trained in not allowing people to burn down buildings.
If we didn't send them, and very importantly, if we didn't send them into Los Angeles, the rest of Los Angeles would have been burned down to the ground.
Yeah.
When you look at Minneapolis, I sent them into Minneapolis because the governor wouldn't make the call. If I didn't do that, you wouldn't have a Minneapolis. It wouldn't be, I don't think it would be existent today. You remember the famous scene burning over the CNN anchor's shoulder. He said, everything seems to be very peaceful. And behind him, the whole city's burning down. So you had the whack job governor who ran for vice president and made a fool out of himself. You would have had, I saved that city. I'll tell you, I saved that city. So the bottom line is these are very tough people that are trained in a thing called common sense.
Common sense.
And they're also trained in doing what we're talking about right now. And you watch crime stop. But you wouldn't have Los Angeles. It wouldn't be existent today. We would have had to cancel the Olympics if I let that go on.
Mr. President,
common sense training should be mandatory.
Israel to allow journalists into Gaza to cover the humanitarian efforts the U.S. is pursuing. And
I'd like to see that happen, sure.
I
I would like to see it happen. I would be very fine with journalists going in. It's a very dangerous position to be in, as you know, if you're a journalist. But I would like to see it.
And on tariffs, Brazil, Mexico, and Latin America are getting closer to China, and they say it's partly because of the tariffs you're imposing those countries. Are you concerned them getting closer to China?
No, not at all. I'm not concerned at all.
I can answer that.
They want. None of them are doing very well, and what we're doing in terms of economics, we're blowing everyone away, including China. We're doing better than any other country in the world right now. Brazil has been a horrible trading partner in terms of tariffs. As you know, they charge us tremendous tariffs, far, far more than we were charging them. We weren't charging anything, essentially. And Brazil has some very bad laws happening where they took a president and they put him in jail, or they're trying to jail him. And I happen to know the man, and I will tell you, I'm pretty good at people. I think he's an honest man. I think
I'm good at people.
This is an electric. This is really a political execution that they're trying to do with Bolsonaro.
Yeah.
I think that's terrible. But they also treated us very badly as trading partners for many, many years. One of the worst countries on earth for that. They charged tremendous tariffs, and they made it very difficult to do anything. So now they're being charged 50% tariffs, and they're not happy, but that's the way it goes.
Mr. President, on DC crime.
Oh, DC crime.
Are you concerned at all that some federal officers that are helping DC police might be being pulled away from other high priority assignments?
Like what? Like what?
Come on.
Oh, really? Terrorism? They'll stop terrorism as part of what they're doing right now. No. The soldiers that
what are you talking about?
First of all, we have plenty of them, long beyond what that you have here. We're just using a very small force. You know, in Washington, D.C., they have thousands of police. They have a lot of police, but the police weren't allowed to do their job. We have a lot of great ones. And you have some that weren't so good, to be honest, but they weren't allowed to do their job. But now they are allowed to do their job, and essentially we've it's only 2 days, but you look at the numbers already, they're dropping. And no, they're not being pulled off for anything.
Mr. President, as you know, there are some very concerning reports about crime statistics. Police are manipulating crime data to downplay crime in D.C. Will the administration release its own crime statistics to counter their misinformation? And will those individuals who are intentionally misrepresenting crime data and fudging the books, like you said, be penalized for endangering the public?
They are under investigation.
Yeah, investigate those SOBs.
They are giving us phony crime stats, just like they gave other stats in the financial world. But they're phony crime stats. And Washington, D.C. is at its worst point, and it will soon be at its best point. You're going to have a very safe, you're going to have a crime-free city. I mean, I say that. You're going to have virtually a crime-free city. And these are strong men, but the criminals are strong men and women, but they're strong men. And these are people that don't play games. We're not playing games. These are criminals we're dealing with. And they treated people. They took one of the people that worked for us the other day. You saw the beating, the pounding, 10 against 1.
Big balls.
And they pounded the hell out of him. He's lucky to be alive. He's barely, almost killed. And we're not going to have that happening, please.
Mr. Tulsi Gabbard declassified more documents last night related to the Russiagate hoax.
She's doing a great job, by the way. That was another fake story. I'm very happy with the job she's doing.
Is that Brendan Dilley?
They declassified some terrible documents.
Is Brendan Dilley in there? Is that what I'm seeing?
Radical left lunatics.
It showed that then DNI James Clapper sent out emails to IC officials saying that it would be a team sport to push then the debunked 2017 ICA report, and that it might lead them to compromise on their normal modalities. What's your reaction to the latest declassification? And in your view, sir, what does real accountability look like for players?
It's incredible what we're finding. Absolute proof of guilt. And we'll see what happens. But Clapper and Comey and that whole group of criminals, they're criminals. And they made it very tough. You know, they did the fake Russia witch hunt that lasted for 2 years. And I got totally exonerated. There was no doubt about it. They should have done it in 1 day, not 2 years. But it was a whole scheme to try and demean Trump so that I couldn't win an election. And that is a criminal group of people. They're sick people, and they're criminals, and they should be taken care of.
Oh, taken care of. Like, what do you mean?
Well, he came to our country, and I heard CNN fake news talking about that was a big win for him. Normally, he would say the opposite, but they said, oh, it's a big win that he came here. Normally, he would say the opposite, he came here. I think that President Putin would like to see a deal. I think if I weren't president, he would take over all of Ukraine. It's a war that should have never happened. If I weren't president, in my opinion, he would much rather take over all of Ukraine.
All
but
of
I am
it.
president, and he's not going to mess around with me.
Take it all.
On Russia, Mr. President, would you support or agree to reducing NATO troops in Europe, in countries like Poland, in order to get Russia to agree to a peace deal?
That hasn't been put before me, and I'll think about that for later, but it has not been put before me. Go ahead.
Is anything less than an unconditional and immediate ceasefire a victory for the U.S.?
Tomorrow?
Yes.
Well, tomorrow we'll see. I say, I don't know where that comes from. Sort of not a good question. I would say that tomorrow all I want to do is set the table for the next meeting, which should
That's not a good question.
shortly. I'd like to see it happen very
What's
quickly,
wrong with
very
you?
shortly after this meeting.
It's a horrible
I'd like to
question.
see it actually happen maybe in Alaska where we just stay because it's so much easier. But I think that it's going to be very interesting. We're going to find out where everybody stands, and I'll know within the first 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, or 5 minutes, like we tend to find out whether or not we're going to have a good meeting or a bad meeting. And if it's a bad meeting, it'll end very quickly. And if it's a good meeting, we're going to end up getting peace in the pretty near future. Okay? How about one more?
One more question. Here we go.
Yeah,
President, thank you, Mr. President. On the Smithsonian, I know that your administration is seeking to weed out a lot of this left-wing spin that's in the museums, but we're seeing from people like Brian Stelter or other commentators that they're insinuating that you are trying to change history according to your narrative. What's your response to that, and is there anything you'd particularly like to take a
We
look
want
at?
the museums to treat our country fairly. We want the museums to talk about the history of our country in a fair manner, not in a woke manner or in a racist manner, which is what many of them, not all of them, but many of them are doing. Our museums have an obligation to represent what happened in our country over the years, good and bad, but what happened over the years in an accurate way. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you, everybody. That means get out. Everybody out. Everybody, we're sick and tired of hearing. There you go. That was President Donald Trump with a fairly, like a 1 hour press conference. Not too bad. I saw Brendan Dilley in there. Apparently, the Dilley meme team, or some of them, are up there in the White House. I don't know. I gotta talk to him. I gotta figure out who he knows. He knows more people than I do, apparently. But look, that was a good press conference. We learned a lot about what's going on with DC crime, which continues to be the big story, and with the Russia incident, the Russia summit, which is coming up tomorrow in Alaska. We're going to get to all that, and I promise we got to get back to the Melania Trump thing too, because the Melania Trump thing, that's a big story. That what's going on with Melania and Hunter, and we don't want to leave it. We don't want to forget about it, but we do want to mention one thing very quickly, and that is that this show that we're able to do every single day, we're able to do it because of our sponsors, and we're able to do it because of people that help out the show, and people who are supportive of the show. And one of our sponsors is actually offering up a fantastic deal right now. Take Lean. Lean, if you go to Brick House Nutrition, go to takelean.com. And right now, if you look on the screen, there's a what do you call it? A QR code. Pardon me, QR. It was tough for me to remember two letters. A QR code. And if you use that QR code, then here's what happens. You get 20% off. Let me go back to the main screen here. You get 20% off when you use that QR code at brickhousenutrition.com. And it's really, really incredible. Let me bring it up here so you can see. If you're a yo-yo dieter, if you lose weight, but then you gain it all back again, and then maybe you even gain a few extra pounds, which is not at all what you want to do when you diet, people don't understand that that's dangerous. That shows that it can increase your risk of heart attack and stroke and type 2 diabetes and all these other things. Well, the solution is Lean from Brick House Nutrition. The science behind Lean is so impressive. It's natural ingredients. It targets weight loss in 3 powerful ways. It controls your appetite, your cravings. It maintains healthy blood sugar, and it converts that fat into energy. So if you're sick and tired of using of yo-yo dieting and using and losing and whatever, just go to takelean.com. You can use coupon code K20, KAYE 20, or use the QR code on the screen as well. Use coupon code K20 and you'll get 20% off at Brickhouse Nutrition for Take Lean when you use that today. It's really, if you can go read, and I always look at the testimonials, and when you see amazing testimonials like they have on Brickhouse Nutrition, you know that it's really great stuff that's powerful and that works. And if you go to the link in the description of this video, you'll see all that information on Rumble and on YouTube. All you have to do is go to the link in the description and you'll see what we're talking about. All right, let's get back to Melania v. Hunter. Melania Trump, she's going after Hunter Biden to the tune of $1 billion. That's what she's threatening. And Hunter Biden said, I'm not retracting my story.
That's not going to happen.
Yeah. And so Melania's lawyers, I guess, are prepping this lawsuit because according to them, it's all fake news. Melania Trump threatens to sue Hunter Biden for $1 billion over false defamatory allegations linking her to Jeffrey Epstein. First Lady Melania Trump recently put Hunter Biden on notice, threatening to sue the former first son of for over $1 billion for suggesting she was introduced to President Trump by notorious pedophile Jeffrey Epstein. Melania's attorney demanded Hunter immediately retract the false claims and defamatory, disparaging, and inflammatory statements. Melania's attorney also said that failure to comply will leave Mrs. Trump with no choice but to pursue any and all legal rights and remedies available to her to recover the overwhelming financial and reputational harm that you have caused her to suffer. That's Alejandro Brito. He wrote that in his August 6th demand letter to Hunter and his lawyer, Abe Lowell, obtained by Fox News. Hunter falsely claimed Epstein introduced Melania to Trump in his interview with Callahan, according to Brito. The connections are like so wide and deep, the former president's son continued, referring to allegations put forward by author Michael Wolff, who was described by Brito as a serial fabulist. Hunter's interview with Callahan was originally posted August 5th on the YouTuber's channel. Given your vast history of trading on the names of others, including your surname, for your personal benefit, it is obvious that you published these false and defamatory statements about Mrs. Trump to draw attention to yourself, Brito charged. He further expressed Melania's demands that Hunter immediately issue a full and fair retraction of the video and immediately issue an apology for the false, defamatory, disparaging, misleading, and inflammatory statements. If you do not comply with the above by August 7, 2025, at 5 p.m. Eastern, Mrs. Trump will be left with no alternative but to enforce her legal and equitable rights, all of which are expressly reserved and not waived, including by filing legal action for over $1 billion in damages. You are on notice. So, as we said, Hunter Biden gets this letter. He gets this lawsuit threat, and he says he was asked, what are you going to do? Are you going to apologize? Melania Trump's looking for an apology.
You've named other cities, New York.
That's not going to happen.
Yeah, that was his answer. So Hunter Biden shrugs off Melania Trump's $1 billion threat over defamatory Epstein remarks, saying, as you heard right there. Wait, where is it? Play it.
That's not going to happen.
Yeah. And so, according to the New York Post, Hunter Biden crassly brushed aside First Lady Melania Trump's threat. Biden said with an arrogant smile during an interview on the YouTube show Channel 5 with Andrew Callahan, the First Lady's team revealed Wednesday that it put the scandal-scarred former first son on notice for suggesting that Epstein introduced her to her husband, Donald Trump. Blah, 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 blah. We all know about that. Despite his bravado, Biden could find himself in a lot of financial trouble if he were sued. The former first son has claimed in court documents that he is straddled with significant debt in the millions of dollars range and struggling art sales and expensive legal bills. Last month, during an interview on Channel 5 with Andrew Callahan, Biden weighed in on the Epstein drama, dogging the president. And then they go into that quote again. What I said was, I have heard and seen, reported and written primarily from Michael Wolff, but also dating back all the way to 2019 when the Times New York, I think, reported that sources said that Jeffrey Epstein claimed to be. So now he's kind of going back and waffling and saying, I think that I may have heard this from somebody else, but I can't really justify or verify it. A cocky Biden, they must have seen those photos. A cocky Biden also suggested he would love to get a deposition with the Trumps over the Epstein claims. I also think they're bullies, and they think that $1 billion is going to scare me, he said. If they want to sit down for a deposition and clarify the nature of the relationship between Jeffrey Epstein, if the president, the first lady want to do that and all of the known associates around them at the time of whatever time they met, I'm more than happy to provide them the platform to be able to do it. Both the president and first lady have said they met in 1998 during a New York Fashion Week party at Kit Kat Club in New York, hosted by Paolo Zampoli. Melania recounted in her memoir, Melania, that the future president sat down next to her and began the conversation. The two tied the knot. Years later, in 2005, I found myself drawn to his magnetic energy, she wrote. Brito, who is serving as Melania's counsel, ripped Wolf as a serial fabulist and accused Hunter of amplifying his comments to draw attention. And then we don't need to get back into that quote. So that's where that stands right now. And it looks like with Hunter Biden saying this is not going to happen, it looks like there'll be some kind of lawsuit, although it's unclear whether or not there's any money left to squeeze from that tree. However, I think that this lawsuit for a couple reasons, it could be beneficial to the United States of America. Getting Hunter Biden, and he threatened, look, and he's like, I would love to get the Trumps deposed. I'd love to get them under oath and ask them questions about Epstein, blah, blah, blah. But the fact of the matter is Hunter Biden and his family have way more. They have way more to hide. They have way more questions to answer. And lying under oath, while I'm sure they've all done it before and would have no problem doing it again, is probably not something he wants to get into. Because if it's proven that he lied under oath, then that could be a whole different series of allegations, even in a civil suit. You know, under oath is under oath. And that could lead to all kinds of, like we said, problems for Hunter. And he apparently has enough problems as it is. I wonder if the people who control Joe Biden are going to keep him off of these podcasts. I wonder if the people who control Joe Biden are out there going, dude, you got to shut up or we're going to cut you off. I mean, they're gonna deprive him of hookers and blow if he doesn't stop talking to this Channel 5 guy and cussing every 5 seconds. Because look what he's doing. He's opening them up to all kinds of legal trouble. He's opening them up to potential depositions. He's opening them up to investigations. He's opening them up to more libel and defamation suits. He's opening them up to, got all kinds. He's annoying George Clooney and other supposed Democrat operatives and high stakes donors. All these people. But I guess that's all that Hunter Biden really knows. So I guess that's what he's doing. Hey, speaking of crazed, angry liberals, Greta Thunberg is no longer apparently a climate activist. She's now a pro-Palestine activist. And Cat Turd I saw tweeted this yesterday, and I wanted to replay it for you because apparently Greta Thunberg, I guess with Donald Trump coming in and going after the Green New Deal, with him going after these environmentalist wackos, and with Lee Zeldin, who, by the way, is an outstanding EPA commissioner. I never really understood what the EPA commissioner did, but Lee Zeldin's doing it. Chris Wright, who's an amazing energy secretary. These guys are shutting down the left-wing lunatic environmental lobbyists and corporations and movement, and they're shutting down these climate change radicals. And so Greta Thunberg, I guess she has no other choice but to switch passions. She has no other choice but she's got, what's her agenda? Now, what is her cause du jour? So she's switched now from global warming and saving the polar bears to saving the Arabs in Palestine.
The world is watching. Free Palestine! Free Palestine! Free Palestine! Free Palestine! Free Palestine! Free Palestine! Free Palestine!
Yeah, so that's Greta Thunberg. Now she's dressed in she's got the whole scarf thing, the black, there's a name for it, I always forget what it is. She's got the Ilhan Omar going, she's got the Palestinian flag in her hand, and she's standing on stage, and instead of screaming and yelling about the environment, instead of, getting arrested for environmental things, now she's standing on stage saying the world is watching, which, by the way, is she used to say that when she was a kid about the environment. She used to say, the world is watching. How dare you? How dare you? That was her big thing back then. Now she's screaming and yelling, how dare you, about Palestine. It's almost like she could be hired out for whatever cause that you want. Like, remember those light beer commercials? Tastes great, less filling. She could, like, if you really were of the less filling camp and you had enough money, you could probably get Greta Thunberg to go, less filling. The world is watching. How dare you, taste great people? I know that's a throwback, but I'm trying to think of a famous debate that you can, Burger King, McDonald's. I don't even know if that's a thing anymore. Coke, Pepsi. Coke is the original. How dare you, Pepsi people? Call a Coke is, how dare you? The world is watching. Have a Coke and a smile. That's Greta Thunberg. She's flipping sides faster than anyone can reveal. And one last thing. Speaking of Lee Zeldin, Lee Zeldin is he's wanting to put a gas pipeline through New England, which is a smart idea, but because it's Donald Trump's EPA administrator's idea, the people in New England are going to throw a hissy fit, and he knows that.
Lee Zeldin is pushing for a natural gas pipeline in New England. I can't imagine that the Massachusetts or New York would allow that to happen.
New England needs it.
Oh, I know.
They're relying on foreign sources of energy. I just visited all 6 states up in New England over the course of the prior week. The Constitution Pipeline of Williams Company, based out of Oklahoma, it was something that was on the map about 6 years ago. Now they're talking about bringing it back to deliver natural gas to New England. It'll need to go through New York. Quite frankly, New York should be extracting natural gas themselves. President Trump knows that one well, but instead this is a proposal to bring the natural gas up from Pennsylvania. President Trump has been pushing Constitution Pipeline, Nessie Pipeline, a new LNG plant over hundreds of miles in Alaska.
Cheaper power, more affordability.
Power, and better for the environment. We do it better than so many other countries
More
do.
affordability. We don't need socialism
and
communism.
jobs.
Well, the Donald Trump administration with EPA Chief Lee Zeldin and Secretary of Energy Chris Wright are pushing for nuclear energy, which thank God, because I've been talking about nuclear energy since I was like yay high. But the nuclear energy, what Donald Trump is doing is he's using our energy. We have so much oil. We've got more dead dinosaurs underneath our ground than any other country. If you look at Alaska and the Gulf of America, and if you look at Texas, and if you look at Oklahoma, there's so much crude oil underneath the United States of America. We just need to get in there and drill, baby, drill. And that is something that Donald Trump is going to allow to happen. He's going to open it up. We're going to start drilling. We're going to be refining again. We're going to have more energy than we know what to do with. And we could keep it for ourselves, that's for sure. Or we could sell it to other countries. We could sell it to our allies. We could even sell it to our adversaries. It doesn't matter. If we sell it, we make money. And if we make money, then Russia doesn't, or the Middle East doesn't. There are countries that are going to lose business when we get back into the oil export business the way we used to. And one of the things that Donald Trump and Lee Zeldin and Chris Wright say is, we need to really look at our nuclear energy, because here's the thing. If we're using nuclear energy at home to power things, we don't have to worry about coal or natural gas or stuff like that. If we have nuclear energy, which, is clean, is abundant, is easy, is safe, is non-invasive, is cheap. If we have nuclear energy powering, basically everything in this country, then we don't even need to worry about natural gas and crude oil. We'll pump our SUVs full of gas, but everything else we will then have, because we're using more nuclear energy, we will then have more fossil fuel energy to sell elsewhere. It makes sense. If your fossil fuel is an exportable product that can make you billions of dollars, why would you use it yourself? Why wouldn't you build up something like nuclear energy so that you could then have an abundance of fossil fuel energy to export elsewhere and make a bunch more money? That's really all Donald Trump does every single day when he wakes up. He's a capitalist, remember. Chris Wright is a capitalist. All these folks that he hires are capitalists. You just saw the Social Security guy, JP Morgan. All they do every single day is they wake up and they think, how can I make more money? They wake up every single day and go, how can I make more money for the United States today? And they're not just talking about hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars. They're talking about billions and trillions of dollars. That's how Donald Trump operates. That's how his team operates. And all of these decisions, whether they're energy decisions or education decisions or foreign policy decisions or decisions about the defense of the United States of America, they all boil down to one thing. Will this or will this not make America rich again? If it makes us richer, if it brings in more money, then we're going to do it. And we're going to continue our dominance economically, militarily, and in the energy sector everywhere. And Russia knows that too. One of the things they're going to talk about in Russia, and this is really exciting. So this Russian summit is tomorrow. And with the Russian summit being tomorrow in Alaska, you've got a bunch of people that are interested in what's going to happen. Of course, President Donald Trump, the United States, everyone here in the U.S. is really interested in what's going to happen. They're like, what's going to happen? What's going to happen during this Russia thing tomorrow? What's going to happen when Donald Trump rolls in and sits down with Vladimir Putin? Vladimir Putin, of course, the Russians are very interested in it too, because they wonder, are they going to end the war in Ukraine? Are Russian soldiers going to stop dying? Will they get some new territory ceded to them? Will there be rare earths involved? All of these different questions. And then, of course, Ukraine, they're all wondering what the heck's going to happen to us. In fact, there was, do I have the audio here somewhere? I think I have it somewhere. There were two press conferences, one in Russia and one in Ukraine. And Russian President Vladimir Putin was, I guess he was talking to, where do I have it? I don't even know if I have it. He was talking to his people, I guess you would say. He was talking to his staff or his cabinet. I don't even know what they call it over there. His foreign ministers. And, Security Council, pardon me. He held a Security Council meeting ahead of the Alaska meeting with President Donald Trump. Here's what he said.
Colleagues, good afternoon. I ask you to convene here today to inform you about how the negotiations are going on the Ukrainian crisis and how the negotiations are developing in the bilateral format with the Ukrainian delegation. In one way or another, many of you are aware of what's happening, but I will give you more details on this. That's one. And two, I'd like to inform you about at what stage we are currently with the American administration. And we know that they are taking quite vigorous and sincere efforts to put an end to the hostilities, to put an end to this crisis, and to reach an agreement that would be of interest for all the parties involved in this conflict, to ensure durable conditions for peace between our countries and in Europe in general, and globally as well. If the next stage would be agreement about strategic offensive weapons. That's what I wanted to say in the beginning.
Okay, so that was Vladimir Putin with his male. By the way, he had a male interpreter, and Vladimir Zelensky had a female interpreter. And I'm not saying that makes him a beta male or anything like that, but I feel like if you're a male in a position of power, you should have a male interpreter. I don't think that having a woman, interpret your words. I just feel like, because now when I watch Vladimir Zelensky, I think he sounds like a woman.
We also discussed the situation at the front line on the battlefield. I told the U.S. president and all our European colleagues that Putin is bluffing. He's trying to push forward along the whole front. And Putin is also bluffing, saying that he doesn't care about the sanctions and that they're not working. In reality, the sanctions are very effective and they're hurting the Russian military economy.
Yeah, it's weird because Vladimir Putin's got a dude, so Vladimir Putin sounds like a dude, and now Zelensky's got this woman who's interpreting for him, and now he just sounds. I think that it's weird. I just think I would demand a male interpreter if I were him. But he's talking about a phone call that he had with President Donald Trump and the European leaders. And President Donald Trump mentioned that yesterday also at the Kennedy Center honors.
How were your calls this morning with European leaders? And was it your call not to invite President Zelensky to your meeting with Putin?
No, just the opposite. No. We had a very good call. He was on the call. President Zelensky was on the call. I would rate it a 10, very, very friendly. I know the leaders because I was at NATO, as you know. I took it from 2% to 5%, 2% that wasn't paid, 5% that is paid, which is trillions of dollars in defense capability. No, it was always going to be, I was going to meet with President Putin, and then after that, I'm going to call the leaders and President Zelensky. I'm going to call President Zelensky, and then I'll call, probably in that order, the leaders. There's a very good chance that we're going to have a second meeting, which will be more productive than the first, because the first is I'm going to find out where we are and what we're doing. We're going to meet with, I would say the second meeting, if the first one goes okay, we'll have a quick second one. I would like to do it almost immediately, and we'll have a quick second meeting between President Putin and President Zelensky and myself, if they'd like to have me there. And that would be a meeting where maybe it could be absolutely worked. But the first meeting will not work that out. Certain great things can be gained in the first. It's going to be a very important meeting. But it's setting the table for the second meeting. I think the second meeting, if the second meeting takes place, now there may be no second meeting, because if I feel that it's not appropriate to have it because I didn't get the answers that we have to have, then we're not going to have a second meeting.
Yeah, so we're going to have a first meeting and then a second meeting, but we may not actually have the second meeting if the first meeting I don't get the appropriate answers. So the second meeting totally dependent on the first meeting. But if the first meeting goes well, the second meeting will happen, and I may not even be there in that second meeting if, of course, the second meeting happens. But that's totally determined by me after the events of the first meeting. That's President Donald Trump's statement on the phone call he had with Zelensky and European leaders to clear it all up. But it doesn't matter, because all that happens tomorrow. And it's really interesting, because no matter what Donald Trump accomplishes, no matter how many peace deals Donald Trump negotiates, people always continue to underestimate President Donald Trump. Not only underestimate him, but belittle him and claim that he is ill-equipped and unqualified for the job that we have hired him to do twice, and which he has shown maximum effectiveness for. And Caroline Leavitt was on with Fox and Friends this morning, and they asked her, they danced around it because they didn't want to, for whatever reason, they didn't want to call out John Bolton. I don't know if they have, I guess John Bolton's a paid contributor, or he comes on Fox News regularly, or whatever. He's dating one of their, who knows. But they didn't want to call out John Bolton specifically. However, Caroline Leavitt had no problem doing it.
Some of the people in liberal media and liberal circles, people that the president fired, said that the president is going to be embarrassed by Putin. Speak to that. What does the president walk out of a meeting? We know who he is. I'm sure he's not going to tolerate disrespect from Putin, even though he wants peace, right?
Well, Lawrence, you're being very kind, and I won't be so kind, and I'll just name some of those people, such as John Bolton, who I think has made a disgrace of himself on television and in the newspapers, claiming that he knows better than President Trump. No, he doesn't, and neither do any of these so-called foreign policy experts who have never solved a foreign policy conflict in their lives. Look at what this president has done in 6 months. He has stopped 7 global conflicts all around the world, using the leverage of the United States of America to negotiate these conflicts to an end. You had the leaders of Azerbaijan and Armenia at the White House last week, both of whom said this would not have been possible without the leadership of President Trump and his administration. So the American people trust this president. That's why they overwhelmingly reelected him. And I think it's pathetic, some of the chatter that we see from these so-called experts who have zero accomplishments on their own resumes to point to. President Trump knows what he's doing. He has great instincts.
And Donald Trump not only knows what he's doing and has great instincts, but he has the United States of America behind him, and the United States of America gives him a lot of leverage, and that's something that she also pointed out.
Look at what this president has done in 6 months. He has stopped 7 global conflicts all around the world, using the leverage of the United States of America to negotiate these conflicts to an end. You had the leaders of Azerbaijan and Armenia at the White House last week, both of whom said this would not have been possible without the leadership of President Trump and his administration. So the American people trust this president. That's why they overwhelmingly reelected him. And I think it's pathetic, some of the chatter that we see from these so-called experts who have zero accomplishments on their own resumes to point to. President Trump.
Yeah. Anyway, that's the same. It's the same clip right there. Anyway, but that's basically that's the entire point of what's happening. President Donald Trump has done amazing things with Azerbaijan, which I think again is just fun to say, and Algeria and India and Pakistan, and they're all calling for him to win the Nobel Peace Prize. And this would be, I think, probably the last piece of the puzzle. But the fact that Vladimir Putin is coming to the United States of America, the fact that he is sitting down with President Donald Trump, and the fact that he called for the meeting shows that there is a lot that President Donald Trump can accomplish and has already accomplished. And one of the reasons he did it was not just because of his military pressure, but again, because of his economic pressure. The deal with the EU, the European Union, that included $750 billion of energy purchases from the United States. That's $750 billion that isn't getting purchased from Russia. That's $750 billion Vladimir Putin doesn't have to buy weapons and perpetuate this conflict with Ukraine. So that is definitely something to look out for. That's definitely something to watch. And that's definitely something that we'll be continuing to watch, especially tomorrow when President Donald Trump and President Putin sit down together. Should be very exciting. Listen, don't forget to subscribe to this channel, whether you're listening on iTunes or Spotify or iHeartRadio, whether you're watching on YouTube, Facebook, wherever you are. Make sure you're subscribed. Set those notifications. Make sure you get this content every single day. Whenever we publish something, make sure you're getting it, because there is so much to talk about. There's so much changing at a record-breaking pace. There's so much news. There's so much that the entire administration is working on every single day. You don't want to miss any of it. And also with Donald Trump working feverishly to save the United States of America, the Democrats are also working feverishly to destroy it and to stop him. And that's why we do this every single day. That's why we need you to subscribe. That's why we need you to stay focused and stay fresh. That's why we need you to stay on board and spread the message. That's why we need every single Katriot, every single day tuning in to stay informed, to stay entertained, to stay enlightened, to stay inspired, because the attacks will keep coming. We will continue to battle, and we will continue to fight together so we can save the Republic. Unfortunately, we do not have time for the after party today because we had an extended,